Yes. Hi.
There he is.
Here he is. Hi.
Hi. Oh my God.
Right? Oh my God.
Oh my God. Oh my
Oh my
God.
God.
Uh, it's almost 30 years.
Yes.
Like since
Yes.
the end.
The end. The end. Oh, geez.
The end, which was the beginning.
The end, which was the beginning. Yes. The end of a chapter.
Exactly.
And the start of many, many more chapters.
Exactly. A very good chapter.
Cool.
Very, very good chapter.
Yes. Very good chapter. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm like in my 25th year of teaching.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like it's insane. But yeah, it's 25 years since and like I've got like about 5 more years to go, and then I retire. Like
What?
I know, right? The idea of retiring from anything, I don't know. I still think of myself like back in the 90s, and
Oh yeah. No, totally.
yeah. But
Totally.
we'll definitely talk about like all of that. So, hello and welcome to episode 12 of Change for the Better, the Power of Arts in Education.
I'm Stacy Tiro, a high school performing arts teacher for over 25 years. I've taught a lot of amazing people. Now that so many of my students are adults, they'll teach me how, through the lessons in my classroom, they have been changed for the better.
So today we have a little special episode of Change for the Better. It's a little treat. I'm going to take a little detour from like the usual interviewing of past students and alumni of mine to have a little chat with an old friend of mine. When I say old friend, we're the same age of old friends. We graduated actually from Montclair State College's, now university's, BFA theater program in 1993, which is like almost 30 years. It's 29 years ago. It's 29 years. It's not 30 yet. But college was it was 4 years of this like boom in personal exploration and creativity and just like figuring out what independence or like the next level of independence really meant to us. We tested the waters and we discovered all sorts of things that we were good at, that we were like not so good at, things that we needed to improve, where our passions were, and how to be a professional in the business of the performing arts. So I made so many friends, including Tom, which I just gave away his name, but okay. And since our theater department was like really small as theater departments go, we spent a lot of time together doing like lots of strange and curious and wonderful and different things. So now, many years later, Tom is now a voiceover professional. He's narrated like literally thousands of projects, from like commercials to video games to animation to corporate and educational media. He records in his home professional studio, which I saw a picture of on his website. It looked really cool. He speaks, as a professional, as a leader in the industry at professional conferences like VO Atlanta and eVOcation. And after a very long career, he knows the ins and outs of the voiceover business like the back of his hand. So we're actually going to start with question number 1. So tell me your name. We already know when we graduated, and what do you do now? And like, what brought you into this business of voiceover acting?
Okay. Well, thank you for having me, Stacy. This is a genuine thrill. My name is Tom Dheere, and I am a professional voice actor. After Montclair State College, I went to the National Shakespeare Conservatory in Manhattan. And it's a 2-year program, and I was there for 1 year. For a lot of reasons, it just wasn't working for me. I learned a lot, I learned a lot about Shakespeare and Chekhov. I took ballet classes and movement classes and, all kinds of wonderful things, and worked with mind-blowingly good instructors and teachers. But for various reasons, it wasn't working out for me. So I dropped out.
Mhm.
So then I'm at home, and my mother was looking through a copy of New Jersey Monthly magazine.
Oh.
And she's looking in the back, and there's these classifieds and want ads and stuff. And she said, "Hey, Tom, what's voiceover?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like, you talk for money, I guess. I've heard about it. Like, some actors do it on the side." And she said, "Well, there's a coach in Ridgewood. So why don't you, check it out? This may be something that you want to do." Because I was really lost, because now it's like December of 1994. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm working at Bennigan's, and I'm just like not knowing what to do. So I call this coach. She tells me to come over for a diagnostic. I do the diagnostic. She's like, "Yes, you have the potential to do voiceover." So I work with her for 6 months, and we put together, we went to a recording studio in Elmwood Park, which is also not far from Montclair. And we recorded my voiceover demo, which I still have as a cassette. And that was spring of 1995. So it was 27 years ago. And it took me a year to get my first voiceover job, which was a public service announcement for herpes awareness. I'm not kidding.
I've got to do it.
Yes. "Honey, I just got home from the doctor." "Doctor, what's wrong?" "Well, remember that jock itch I told you about?" "Well, it wasn't jock itch. It was genital herpes." That was my first voiceover. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's the first time I got paid as a voice actor. So that was 1996.
Mhm.
And I struggled mightily for 9 years, because all of the decisions that I made were out of ego, insecurity, ignorance, or fear as a voice actor, as an actor in general, and a voice actor in particular. Until 2005, where I got fired from the last job that I ever had, which was horrific because I got fired for something I didn't do. So I had to lawyer up. But the good part about it is that I got on unemployment. And I used that unemployment to build my first home recording studio.
Nice.
This is 2006. And I was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm not messing around anymore. I'm not going to dip my toe in theater or film or TV. I'm going to be 100% voiceover. And I was making a living, not a good living, but I was making a living.
Right.
And then 2011, I went to my first voiceover conference, which I didn't think I deserved to be there, because I did not feel that I deserved to be a success, professionally or personally, at the time. And this is a special kind of conference. It's an unconference format where there are no speakers. The attendees build the format and build the talking, the conversations. And there were only 100 people are allowed in, and I got in. I was shocked. So I felt that I needed to prove myself, to demonstrate that I deserved to be there. So I put together a presentation on how to write a mission statement, how to write annual goals, and how to write a monthly action plan as a voice actor. And this is something that hadn't been done before. No one had really done this. So there's 100 people at this conference. 50 of the 100 showed up for my 1 hour thing. So there was this teeny little ballroom, and it was completely crammed. There were people everywhere. And I was like, oh my God. And so I did the presentation. They loved it. The day I got home, I got flooded with voiceover work. I can't explain why. I've done my cost benefit analysis. I've analyzed my client churn. I've done all the stuff. There's no rhyme or reason. It just happened. Call it whatever you want, spiritual, divine, whatever. But all the seeds that I've been planting from 1995 until 2011, that Monday, boom. And I haven't looked back. Also, at the time, in the room, there was a person who runs a voiceover school, we'll call it, here in New York City. And then a few weeks later, I got a call, and they said, hey, we would love you to work for us as an instructor, teaching the business and money side of voiceovers. And until about a couple of weeks ago, I had been instructing there for 10 years.
Right.
So I'm a full-time voice actor, but I'm also known as the VO Strategist. So all those years of screwing up and making bad business decisions, and I didn't know what I didn't know, I take all that information and I teach people who are trying to get into the voiceover industry what the reality of the industry is and how to be able to effectively navigate it, everything from time management skills to filing your taxes, all the grown-up stuff that you didn't know that you needed to know
that you don't learn in your voiceover classes.
Right. Or in our theater classes. I mean, we had wonderful teachers. They taught us how to act, but they didn't teach us how to be in the acting business. They didn't teach us how to get a job.
Right.
And now this is 1993. I don't know if there was any
I'm sure it's changed since then.
Oh, I guarantee it has.
Yeah,
but that, it was just like, get out there and be somebody. It's like, oh crap. What do I do? So yeah, so I'm a full-time voice actor, full-time VO strategist, and I produce my own comic book too, called Agent 122. So I have that on the side that I produce with actually the guy that I produced the comic book with is the guy who runs the recording studio where I recorded my first demo in 1995, strangely enough.
Full circle, right?
Yeah, full circle of life or circle of whatever. So
yeah, I talk about this all the time. And one of the focuses of the podcast is to sort of provide sort of teachable moments for high school students, for college students, people who have not achieved adulthood status yet, but who are moving in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's talking to people and hearing that their experiences and, the stumbling blocks along the way and the anxieties that they have. And it reflects that is the adolescent experience. And they just don't understand that everybody has the not the same experience, but the same sort of feelings from their experience.
Yes.
And so I'm really glad that you shared all of the difficulties, the challenges of, where you were for all of those years and how it's like one door closes, another door opens and more doors keep opening until suddenly it's like, oh, I've arrived in a place where I think I want to be here.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Thank you for that.
Sure.
So I want to go sort of back into that college mindset, and it could be college, high school,
Sure.
if you can remember that far back.
I can. Yes, I have some recall.
I can't. No, that's not true. So I want you to go back to that time in your life. And I want you to think using your adult brain, right? And we are quite the adults now.
Hey.
Describe your adolescent, just post-adolescent self.
Okay. So high school, I took drama for the extra credit because I was a senior, and I went out for the fall play on a dare. Up until then, I had no idea what I wanted to do. What I did know is I just wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons and listen to Metallica, and with no really. And I was one of the held the record for biggest underachiever in high school ever. My guidance counselor would slap me around all the time. Tom, you should be on honor roll. You should be getting straight A's. What are you doing? Why are you just sitting there giving your Dungeons and Dragons characters last names? You should be studying and focusing and trying to figure out what you want to do and be. And I'm like, meh. But then I auditioned for the Mousetrap, Agatha Christie's Mousetrap, as a senior, and I got it. Christopher Wren. And I said, oh, okay, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. Yeah. Click. I heard it was an audible click. And I'm like, okay, this is what I want. And then we did Grease in the spring, and I auditioned at Montclair and Rutgers and a couple other places. And I decided to go to Montclair. Then college. And it's where I met you and all the other wonderful people in our class.
That's right.
And
college, baby.
yeah. But I can comfortably say that I squandered the entire 4-year experience. Absolutely. I was not prepared. I was not prepared on an emotional, psychological, interpersonal level. I struggled mightily, and I'm sure you saw some of it manifest in the classroom and outside of the classroom. There was no malice. I just didn't know how to just be a human. I didn't know how to just be.
How to be, yeah.
I didn't know how to be.
Okay, in our
yes.
existence. Yeah.
Jason Grote counseled me often, who was, one of the smartest guys we know. And he's like, Tom, just relax. Everybody likes you. Just chill. You don't have to say all this stuff. You don't have to be, you don't have to do, you don't have to emotionally tap dance for everybody. Just chill. You're fine. I didn't get it. It took me forever to kind of figure that out. I was also hung up in what an actor is supposed to be and how serious you're supposed to be, which is one of the reasons why I left the conservatory, because we had this amazing concentrated theater program, this BFA theater program, and we learned about everything, stage combat and makeup, and I discovered Shakespeare, and you got to be in your musicals, and you know, we were discovering and rediscovering and affirming or discarding and all these amazing things. So it was a 4-year program, and we all went through that curve. But then when I went to the conservatory, you didn't need to have a college degree to go in. It wasn't a master's program. So here I am at 22, and there's kids who are 18 who's at the beginning of their journey. And here I am 4 years later with some other people. And it was extraordinarily difficult to get work done, acting work, like really granular work done, because these kids, relative to me, these kids were still trying to figure stuff out that you and I and everybody else in our class had figured out
4
years ago
to get through. Yeah.
So it got extraordinarily frustrating for me. Layer on that the fact that I was like, I am going to be a Shakespearean actor. Who are these little whippersnappers? You know, and I was really full of myself. And again, still not equipped to, I was still lacking a lot of interpersonal skills. So it was a very miserable experience for me. So that lent a lot. So I was just not happy. So my adolescent self was my adolescent self in many ways until I went to therapy and got some good, deep, hardcore therapy and unpacking a lot of things.
By the way, ding, ding, ding. It's okay to go to therapy.
Oh my God.
Totally okay.
Look, everybody, listen to me. Listen to me. You go to the gym to work out your muscles, right? You diet, you eat right to be healthy. Go to therapy to get and stay healthy up here and in here. There's nothing wrong with it. Our generation and everybody before, it was stigmatized and shamed. And that was so counterproductive.
Damaging. Yeah.
And damaging. Oh, clearly damaging. But when I started to go to therapy, which was around 2014, and I was in for like a solid 5 years, like really hardcore, unpacking a lot of things and addressing my anxiety. And it, because I have anxiety. It's not like I'm not a medication or anything, but like I have anxiety, which manifested a lot in a very bad way in Montclair State. Just being like, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know how to talk to this girl. I don't know how to hang out with these guys. I don't know what to do in this scene, that sort of stuff. So therapy is a good thing. And you do it for as long as you need it. And, then I got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm in a pretty good place. I knew I was in a good place because I could actually fall asleep within a few minutes, as opposed to be up until 2 a.m. yelling at myself and arguing and having monkey brain.
That rumination brain is terrible.
It's a killer. It's a killer because sleep is like the most important thing.
Yep.
There's nothing more important than a good night's sleep. All the diet and exercise and everything is one thing, but if you can't get a good night's sleep, you're just boned.
Your brain can't heal itself. It can't sort out.
And it can't heal itself. The proteins and the synapses and doing all the things that it's supposed to do with a good night's sleep and getting into REM and dreaming, and whether you remember it or not, you need that stuff. I
literally just had a conversation with one of my students like yesterday. She's taking my dance class. She's in the front. She's like one of those like really energetic, overachieving kind of kids. And when we're doing the dance, she's like, yeah. And when we stop and I'm making corrections, I've seen this. She's like falling asleep on her feet.
Weird.
I've never seen that before. So
That's
I had and this happened like 2 days in a row. And I had a conversation with her after class. I was like, honey, how much are you sleeping? And she's like going to bed at 12:30 and waking up at 4 so she can do like homework. I'm like, you need to stop that. So yes, the sleep thing is everything.
Yes. And everybody has their own different patterns. And we know that kids need more sleep than adults and, and all that stuff, but you got to listen to your body. You got to listen to your body. And yes, there's types where you have to, sometimes you want to beat the night and hang out with your friends once in a while. And that's obviously cool. And you got to cram for that exam, fine. But as a regular routine, you need to listen to your body. Let it tell you when to wake up and let it tell you when to go to sleep. You got to listen to it.
Yeah.
Got to.
Absolutely. It's so nice when like I hear other people saying the things that I've been like please listen to me. I really do know. I understand this. You have to understand this. So
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
for that validation there.
Mhm.
Okay, so all of that like anxiety and that so was there anything in college now, because I know that like you started therapy, much later
Much
on,
later,
but was there anything that happened in college that you used to kind of help manage or regulate yourself that worked?
That's a great question.
Mm,
Um, Focusing on the craft
mm,
was a big part of it, getting absorbed in that. But the problem for me was, if you're going to be exploring acting and doing intense scenes or even comedic scenes, there's a level of transparency that you have to have with your partner and with yourself, which for the most part I was incapable of doing. And
mm.
I depended a lot on my talent to muscle through a lot of the work that you and I did with the Rainmaker scene with Marcia, or not the Rainmaker. Was it the Rainmaker? Was that the one you and I did with Marcia?
It was a scene, yes, that she was
Yes.
directing, right?
Yep. Yep. Or, or whatever. I know. I don't know. I don't know how I remember that until literally just now.
It's
I'm
like,
sure I didn't think about that until after, since we left the room. But, focusing on the craft is extraordinarily important. So that helped a lot. Also understanding that there's a discipline. Look, I'll put it to you. This is something that I say to my students, my voiceover students. There's an x-axis of talent. All right. There's a y-axis of skill. And these two lines need to intersect for you to be effective as a performer. Okay. Because we had some very, very talented people in our class who weren't technically, who had technical issues.
right.
And then there were a lot of people who were very good at like breaking down scenes and stuff like that, but they weren't able to get in touch with themselves emotionally to be able to bring the character for life and draw everybody in and do all the things that you need to do.
Mm.
So to be talented is one thing.
Mhm.
Talent, in my opinion, is grossly overrated, frankly, because I own an interesting pen. It doesn't make me an author. I own a wrench. It doesn't make me a plumber. Just because I've got a good singing voice doesn't make me an effective performer. Right. Because there's a whole lot of other things inside and outside that need to go with that. Which is why, and I say this all the time, is that, for example, voiceovers, this is not a chorus line. Right. This is not American Idol. This is not a contest. This is not God, I hope I get it. Mm-hmm. This is a vocation. Theater is a vocation. Dancing, modeling, music, being a musician, a sculptor, all of it is a trade. Mm-hmm. And there's your raw talent and the ability to realize that talent through skill. And now in the 21st century, business acumen, marketing savvy, understanding social media, understanding how to file your taxes, all that grown-up stuff that our agents who are going to make us a star would do for us back in the day. And now for the most part, we're on our own. Right. So Montclair, the college experience did teach me that, this is I knew it was a business, but I didn't understand how to navigate the business. And I wanted to, but I didn't know how.
And to be fair, at the time, those classes weren't really offered. And, and it's funny, I wrote a case study about this is going to be published hopefully later this year. But it was about how dance education programs, do they prepare students for like entrepreneurship, to be able to become teachers and studio owners. And I would say this is like across the board for all the arts, sure. You go into these sort of conservatory style programs for your craft, for your skill, for mm-hmm. all of that experience. But is it adequate, the hard and soft skills that you need as a business person to like really make it? Because, you were talking about a career, you want to do this over the long haul. You want to do this for 30, 40, however many years you live. And so, our program, as wonderful as it was to give us all of those wonderful acting, tools, mm-hmm. it didn't really quite prepare us for the business.
No, it didn't. And another thing that I talk to my students about is how we in America were taught on the Prussian educational model, mm-hmm. right? Which mm-hmm. is designed to create soldiers. Yeah, Right. Yeah. And so we're designed to create soldiers and factory workers in America, not entrepreneurs, not self-determining, independent spirits, for lack of a better term. So we just don't have it in our muscle memory to understand, we all want to be just like told to do. So it's either like you're a 9-to-5er in this rigid box cubicle, or you're this mess of a starving artist scrabbling and and flailing about and dancing around a fountain for nickels. And and that's not fair. That's not fair to us, because you got to work hard to be a doctor, but you got to get lucky to be an actor.
Right.
What an insult. But we're not set up for success on that level in any of the performing arts. It's getting better. And that's one of the reasons I have as many students as I do. Because they're like, I got this demo, I got this training, I have no idea what to do next.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, let's talk about project management. They're like, what? I'm like, let's talk about CRMs. They're like, what? And this is the things you got to do to be able to navigate almost pretty much any industry, and all the whole social media stuff and inbound and outbound marketing and all the other just crazy nonsense that you have to be.
It's
so much. It's so much. It's like harder than ever.
It's two halves. Like it's your, the talent and skill and the talent stuff. And it's the business. It's literally 50-50.
Yeah. And that's why I recommend books like The Right Brain Business Plan. I don't know if you've heard of that one. It's for people who are artistic and creative and intuitive. And like, if they drive past a Staples, they have a panic attack, and like, they don't know what an Excel spreadsheet is or stuff like that. But it's a great book. Like, because I teach, like literally today, I had a student, I was talking to him about how to write an action plan and set goals and break down your voiceover business into cash flow, tools, technique, marketing, health, and do all these things. Some people just can't get their arms around that. I'm like, okay, go to the craft store and get some construction paper and clip out some magazine pictures and grab some glue and grab some glitter and do that and put that on the wall and make that your vision board, which is your business plan. And that's just as valid as long as it gets the results, because I talk about effectiveness. There are very few performers who are effective. They may be talented, or they may be beautiful, or have great hands or great feet or great singing voice, but are they truly effective in plying their trade? And a lot of them are not, which is why there's so many. What is it? Many are called, few are chosen. I say many are called, but few make the right choices. So,
Hashtag Tom Dheere.
I don't know if I don't know if I made that one up, but
that's okay. Nobody copyrighted it. So
put it out there.
So what are some of like the lessons and the strategies and the things that you did learn in college that you think about or are able to use today?
I wish it was more, Stacy, but I was so up my own butt in college that I didn't. But I will tell you what I wish, that the things that I wish I had. I wish I had the ability to get more mentally centered. You know what I mean? The ability to center yourself. I talk to my students because a lot of them they work from home, so they don't have a bus ride or a train ride or a drive. So I talk about what are the things that you can do to mentally center yourself, to get yourself ready for the day. And I need to do these auditions. I need to do this marketing. I need to create these invoices. I need to do this research. Because I teach time management and workflow and all of that stuff. The ability to mentally center yourself and emotionally center yourself. Because as a performer, you need to be in touch with the technical, and you need to be in touch with the emotional, and you need to be in touch with the psychological. And that's a heavy lift for a kid, to be perfectly honest.
100%.
So the more that you can get yourself physically and mentally in a state where you are open to direction from the teachers, where you're open to self-direction, because another thing that I talk to my students about is the art and science of self-direction. Since most voice actors these days never go to an actual recording studio because everybody's recording from home because of home technology, and COVID catalyzed the home recording movement.
Sure.
You need to learn how to direct yourself and be able to look at a script and say, why was this script written the way it was? Why was this line? Why is this with this? And, and breaking that down. And all at the same time, being able to be open to moments, open to opportunities that your partner gives you, your dance partner or your acting partner or your singing partner, whether it's just a little gesture or a little wiggle of the eyebrow. And it's like, oh, okay, that means something. I can do something with that. I can react to that. Like those wonderful exercises when Theater and Podol came and we did those wonderful exercises. It really forced you to take in what somebody was doing and be able to react to it and give it to the next person. But the ability to listen, listening is more important than everything. And it's not just taking direction.
Evaluative brain and
yes,
and just kind of like,
you got to be able to take it in, and the ability to have the training in place. It's like music. You learn the notes, you learn the chords, and then you just play. But you have to do that work and have the discipline and do your notes and do your chords and do your scales and do all that stuff. So when it's go time, you're open to whatever can happen. So, focus on your craft, students. It's extraordinarily important, but it's just as important, if not more important, to be able to listen, not just with your ears and your eyes, but with your mind and your heart and your soul, to whatever energy you are bringing to the moment and whatever energy they're bringing to the moment, so you can connect. And, it'll be different every time, because whatever you had for breakfast, or if your dog pooped on the carpet, or if you had a fight with your partner before you came into the studio, all of that's going to inform what today's going to be. Let it be whatever it is. Just the more you're open to yourself and open to what's going on around you, the more effective you will be as a performer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So since college, since you had like your sort of transformation, we'll call it,
Sure.
into the more comfortable Tom. So how have you changed? Like, how would you define that evolution?
I mean, it's 30 years is a long time, but my real growth didn't really start till I got into therapy in 2014, which is eight years ago. And I had achieved various levels of success and notoriety in the voiceover industry, but I really, I wasn't quite me. I understand that I deserve to be successful as a person, and I deserve to be successful as a professional. I didn't think I did for a very, very, very long time because of internal and external forces. So, like, I worked at Bennigan's for 5 years. I got to travel. I got to open restaurants around the country for Bennigan's. I got to open the first Bennigan's in England and do a lot of fun things. And then I worked for Applebee's for 5 years, the one in Clifton, which was the busiest one in the world. I was the head trainer and the head host. And this was 1999 to 2004. So I was a full-time voice actor, but I hadn't quite figured things out, or I was trying to be a full-time voice actor. And I was just constantly surrounding myself with people that didn't support my self-image. I kept surrounding myself with people that would refuse to let me be the best version of myself. I had people who were constantly trying to tear me down. Family, friends, and coworkers. Some of them were doing it consciously, some were doing it unconsciously. Like, I had non-voiceover friends who just didn't understand what I was doing and asking me, well, when are you going to get that teaching job? When are you going to get a real job? Which is so unfair to me. And it's unfair to, the teaching profession, because it makes it sound like it's a cop-out or a fallback. And that's just not even remotely true. It just wasn't my calling. I wanted to be a voice actor. And you know what I do? I also teach every day, and my mom laughs at me. But I'm like, yeah. I mean, my parents were teachers, so I have the teaching gene, I guess. But being more comfortable with self, understanding that it's okay to have anxiety. I still have anxiety. It's just, it's not who you are, and it's not what happens to you or in front of you. It's how you react to whatever happens internally or externally that really determines what your life is gonna be like. Like, I wouldn't be married now if it wasn't for the 5 solid years of therapy, because I didn't understand what it meant to have a relationship, personally or professionally. I just didn't understand what it meant. I didn't know what was involved. I just wasn't equipped internally, and based on my upbringing, I just wasn't trained,
Right.
about how to do that.
You didn't have the tools. The tools
Right.
were.
So I'll put it to you this way. Am I the same human? Yeah. But there's a difference between there's you and then there's your behavior. You are not your behavior.
Right.
Those can be two separate things, because you can love your sister and your sister could be a drug addict. So you love you love your sister, you love the human, but you hate the behavior because the behavior is destroying her and destroying everyone around her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was a matter of getting comfortable with the fact that I'm a basically decent person with basically good intentions, who tries to take care of my village. But the way but the manifestation of that, the practical application of that, was always just a mess, because I was so wrapped. I just had my head up my butt in so many ways, on so many levels. I'll put it to you this way, Stacy, is that the reason why most people fail in life in general and in the performing arts in particular is because they can't get out of their own way.
Oh, 100%.
They are their
agree.
biggest obstacle to success. Not
Agreed.
logistics, not politics, not money. I mean, all of those things can and are factors, but ultimately, most of the time, all things being equal, most people self-destruct. Most people self-destruct for a range of reasons.
Right.
And I got tired of sucking at life. It was just getting boring.
It was so sad. It was like,
it was kind of sad. It's like, oh my God, what the hell's wrong with you? Why do you keep making these same mistakes over and over again? It's like, I tell my students that, like, you go to the mall, you park your car, you go and you do the things, you come out, you can't find your damn car. And you keep doing this again and again and again and again and again and again and again. You're like, okay, wait, stop. I get out of the car. I look around. Okay, I'm in lot G. Okay, there's a tree right there with a pair of sneakers hanging from it. Okay, now I go in the mall. I come out of the mall, I find the G, I find the tree with the shoes, and now I can get in my car and get on with my life.
Right.
You're
using strategies.
Coming up with systems. I talk about systems of thought and systems of execution, how you think about what you're supposed to think about, and then how to practically turn that into systems of execution, which is what you're actually going to do. Most people don't have effective or often self-destructive systems of thought because of assumptions and expectations that come out of those assumptions about the voiceover industry, about the dance industry, about musical theater. And they have these preconceived notions of who they are and what the industry is. And they think they're going to dictate what their relationship is with the industry. And to a point you can and should, but you need to listen to yourself and listen to the industry and come up with, okay, so what can my relationship be to whatever industry this is? Because when I started, I thought I needed to sound like James Earl Jones. Do I sound like James Earl Jones, Stacey?
I don't think you've ever sounded like James Earl Jones.
Not even if I've had 3 cigars and a fifth of whiskey, can I sound like James Earl Jones? And then when I started to do cost benefit analysis of my business, I noticed that the vast majority of my work were e-learning modules. And I was like, oh, so I had a conversation with Mr. Earl Jones in my head. And I said, look, I'll do the e-learning, you do the commercials, because I can't do what you do and you can't do what I do. Could you imagine James Earl Jones doing an e-learning module?
It would
Turn
be
to page 42.
It would be interesting.
It would be intense, and you wouldn't learn a damn thing because you'd be so in love with his voice. You would be completely ignorant of the content. So listen to yourself, listen to the industry, get a holistic understanding of what the industry, your respective industry is: theater, dance, film, art, modeling, sculpture, whatever, and understand what you need to be, do, and have to achieve the types of success that you want.
So if you could go back in time, in our time machine, and go to young adolescent / college Tom, what would your adult self tell your younger self?
After the beatings or before the beatings? I would say the beatings will continue until morale improves. I would say, Tom, you're okay. You're okay. You're a good kid. Just relax. Just be you. And you're going to be all right. You're a smart kid. You got some talent. You're only an insufferable asshole because you're trying to be something that you're not.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you don't have to be. Just be you. And so there's a certain level of zen to it. but it's just more about just relax and listen, enjoy yourself, enjoy the wonderful people that are around you. And we had such a lovely group of people in our class, most of which I, pissed off on some point on some level for various periods of time. All except maybe Missy Pentecost. She was a saint.
Oh, she was, gosh, she's like liquid chocolate. Like,
Oh,
like
she was amazing.
Gold and chocolate and everything wrapped up into one. Yeah.
And Roger Mazzio, he was actually he's like one of the generally nicest humans I've ever met. But
True.
anyway, but yeah, I'd just be like, dude, just relax. Just relax, learn your craft, enjoy your time, enjoy the moments that you're having with everybody. And, it's okay to be you, warts and all, because you're judging yourself way too much and adjusting your behavior based on your self-judgment, which is grossly inaccurate.
Right. Now that you've come to like this sort of more centered and kind of healthy and manageable place, what are you still grappling with now?
I mean, I grapple with, the struggles are still the same. I mean, I still have a little imposter syndrome, but most voice actors do.
I think most adults do.
Most adults in general, because like, I don't feel like I'm 50. I really don't.
Okay, we started.
I just don't. I just feel so much younger. I feel so much younger than I do. I'm blessed to be in good health too. I just lost 30 pounds on Noom. I mean, I haven't had any serious ailments. I got a little tennis elbow right now and I don't play tennis. Don't ask me how it happened. Stacey, I'm an extraordinarily anal retentive person. I'm very organized because it's my form of control. I love spreadsheets. I love compartmentalizing and putting things in buckets and labeling them. That's my way of navigating the universe. Is it a good thing, a bad thing, or a thing? Well, it's a bad thing if you can engage in what we like to call administrivia and are doing things for the sake of doing things for the sake of anxiety management. But to take my inherent anxiety, to take my inherent anal retentiveness and turn it into developing systems to be able to run my business, because voiceovers is extraordinarily chaotic and unpredictable.
Sure.
You have no idea where your next gig is going to come from. That's right. The things, I mean, I audition for huge things all the time and I audition for little things all the time, and you never know what's going to come through and what's going to be a $300 job or a $3,000 job or a $30,000 job. And, anything it could all come crashing down at any minute. You never get booked again, which is
right.
For most people, not true.
Even more anxiety provoking.
Which is more anxiety provoking, which is why my friends are like, how are in the world,
right?
How you are such a rigid, structured person in such a chaotic, creative business. How can how do you do it? And I think that's the only way that I can. I'm very creative. I write all the time. I write my comic book. I've been writing my blog for 14 years. I write scripts for the demos for my students. I'm constantly creating, because you're constantly creating characters and exploring, whether it's helping people pick their insurance plans for next year, or I'm narrating an audio, like a romantic audio book. You need to have systems to be able to navigate all of this stuff and be creative at the same time. So I'm one of those lucky people in the performing arts who is extraordinarily creative, but I'm also extraordinarily disciplined and like structure and need structure. So I have something emotionally and psychologically to anchor myself. Stephen Covey calls it withstanding change while maintaining a changeless core. He wrote the 7 habits of highly effective leaders, or people? 7 habits of
that one.
7 habits. It's probably on the shelf behind me.
I get what it's funny, because I started blogging in the pandemic. That's when I really started blogging a lot, and I got to the point I did like a series, a geriatric gymnastics series, and I got to the end of that and I went, what am I gonna write about? And I started going what's my next focus, and then this podcast idea came up, and I was like, oh, that's like an almost never ending source of material, and I just kind of keep doing that. Right. And with every episode I do a blog post, and so I could still blog about whatever I want.
Sure.
But that is that regularity.
Yes.
Of creativity.
It's the genius of your content, of your blog content.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mine's about everything I screwed up last week. It didn't start that way. It started just me being a me show and being very self-aggrandizing and, oh, look at all the work that I'm doing, blah, 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 and aren't I great? And I had no readership. But when I started writing about the mistakes I was making and what I learned from those mistakes, that's when I started to get a following in the blogosphere. So I always include a tip of the week because, again, I would like to spare everyone the mistakes that I make. You know, so the how to remember where you parked in the mall is kind of the outside of the mall is kind of the theme of my blog. It's therapeutic for me. And also I like writing this stuff down because then I remember, because I often look back on my own blogs and remind myself of, you know, because I forget stuff and I get a little
practice what you preach.
I practice. Well, see, and that's why my mission statement is I, Tom Dheere, will getting closer to being the man I know I can be by exercising my demons, make self-loving choices, and work as hard as everybody thinks I do. The work as hard as everybody thinks I do means that I am telling people to give me money to tell them how to run their voiceover business. So if I'm going to do that, I need to be walking the walk every single day.
That's right.
You know, I can't be a hypocrite about it. I incorporate mental health days where I have days where I make it a point to do nothing. But when it's time to work, I need to work because I also need to have credibility as the VO strategist by being a working voice actor. I have to be a successful working voice actor to be able to say, these are the things that I do and these are the things you should do because it works for me. You know what I mean? Or the building systems or ways to build your business and realize your potential and all that good stuff.
Clearly, so many things have gotten better since your college experience, but
oh God, yeah.
Can you go back and like find one thing that you miss about, not about college, but about your college self or your high school self? And I know it's like mired in all the stuff that you know, like you want to.
I know there's a lot of crap on top of it. What I liked rehearsing more than performing. I was almost disappointed when it was time to perform. I got to a certain point in college. And my point to bring that up is that I loved the process. I love the process. I loved our theater history classes and I loved our play script. I really enjoyed all the classes. I just adored the content of it. And then to be able to take all that content and say, okay, now it's time to do House of Blue Leaves or, you know, Our Town or whatever other shows we did.
Crucible.
And it's time,
you did Crucible.
The Crucible, right. The Crucible. And now to take all this stuff and put it in this machine and turn the crank and see what comes out on the other side. And then try it this way and try it that way. And, you know, Governor Danforth, maybe you should, you know, don't shout that line, whisper that line, see what it does. And maybe laugh when you say it and see what that does. And how does that affect Frank DeCoco, who I was having most of my scenes with in the Crucible, you know, and just the process of doing that, because now that I'm a full-time voice actor and I have been for a very, very long time, I am by myself in a little black box most of the time. There's a bunch of studios here in New York City that before COVID, there would be me and a few other voice actors doing like hours and hours of e-learning content, because there'd be 2 guys, 2 girls, 2 sound younger, 2 sound older. So between the 4 of us, we could kind of narrate all the content that whatever the e-learning client, Oxford or Houghton Mifflin or Ballard and Tye or any of the other number of places that you've probably used their materials over the years. And that's gone. And I haven't been in the same booth with an actor in over 2 years. And I miss that terribly. I miss that terribly. So so the process of learning and growing and figuring stuff out with you and all the other wonderful actors and students that we work with in our classroom setting and then in rehearsal, you know, I really miss that. That was like the meat that I would feast on.
When we do, whether we're doing, you know, work in class or work in rehearsals after school, you know, it's like there's something about the rehearsal process, the rehearsal meeting where, you know, you go in, you all have a sort of a common goal, but that you go in going, all right, what are we going to do today? You know?
Yeah.
And it's very exciting and it's very inspiring. And especially when you have like, you know, talented and good people to work with, you're like, oh, that thing that you did, oh my God, that was like,
right. and it
can I
takes
do
me, it
something
sends
like
me
that
over, yeah, and
too?
it takes me over there, and then I do this, and I'm looking at this character a different way before, and then I pick up this thing, and then you do that, and oh my God, and everything, like, it's just interaction. It's just how everything, it's
a
when you
very,
get that, oh, it's so tasty.
yeah, it's like a communal experience. Like literally, I felt like we were in a commune.
We
Like
kind of were.
did acting things, you know?
Yeah. Acting things. Remember when you, me, Mike, and Stacy went to the mall, and you and Stacy act like you were groupies, and you were following me and Mike around the mall because we were like cable TV stars or something. Remember that? That was one of my favorite college. That's one of my favorite college memories. That was just
Like it was such a great time. Like I remember we
Yeah.
just like go to the park and like climb on the jungle gym that was in the park, and
Yeah.
we just did all these like really fun, silly things. Then we got really serious in our classes, but
Yes.
everybody was just kind of like goofballs. Nobody took anything, all that seriously until we were doing the work, and then we
Right.
oh,
Then we would buckle,
I got to get
focus.
serious now. But like, I
Right.
felt like it was a good balance between, that serious brain and that, like, I need to be goofy and like let
Yeah.
off steam. So
Cafeteria and downstairs in the student lounge in the basement where we were. That's when
the
we would
lounge,
just be
which
ridiculous.
at the time, like, our smoking was allowed. So it was like you would, there's
Yeah, it was kind of nasty.
puff of smoke just
Yeah.
coming out of the room as you're walking down the rehearsal studio. It was like, oh God, I think we got like secondhand smoke poisoning.
I'm pretty sure I got emphysema from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Those of us who are non-smokers are like, okay,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah, I'm a secondhand smoker. I cut that, so I save a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, so if you, all right, and we're going to try and pare this down.
Sure.
If you could give a piece of sage advice to high school, college students,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be?
Okay, one piece of sage advice to give to students.
Hmm.
If you want to be an effective artist on the stage, you need to learn how to be an effective business off the stage.
Mm.
And I'm going to say this one other thing. Here's something that
Okay.
I've started saying recently,
Mhm.
is that no matter what you do it with both hands and on a flat surface.
Mm.
Here's the context. A few months ago, we get Amazon boxes like everybody else does. And so I grabbed a pair of scissors, I opened it up. So the blades of one of the scissors here, I've got the box in my arm, and I'm like standing up and I'm going like this. And at one point I'm just like, whoa, stop, time out. Put the scissors down, put the box on the dining room table,
Yeah.
grab a box cutter, use both hands, one hand to hold the box steady, one hand to use the box cutter, and then you can open it up and break it down and put it in recycling. This has become my new mantra for life in general and my career in particular.
Sure.
So whatever you're going to do, acting, singing, dancing, modeling, sculpting, whatever it's going to be, do it with both hands and on a flat surface. Give yourself every opportunity to succeed. Because yes, it's all about getting to the
Yeah.
that's what it's about for a lot of people. And that's fine, to drink in the glory and the adulation and have roses being thrown at you. And that's great. But that's only a part of it. But if you want to get there, you need to have your eyes open. You need to understand what's going on around you and understand that nobody is responsible for your career except for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Unless your mom's a casting director, you're on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nobody will care about your career as much as you do. Nobody will invest more in your career than you will. If you go into this business, if you go into the performing arts with the intent of all I need to do is to get discovered and get my big break, you are boned. Okay. Breaks, because I tell my students, breaks, connections, competition, and luck are all nonsense. Okay. Those are all external forces you have no control over.
Mm-hmm.
You need to focus on the things that you can control by creating opportunities for yourself, being prepared for when those opportunities coming along, understand what's going on in the industry by reading Variety and Backstage in all of those periodicals, practicing at home, going to networking events, doing volunteer work, doing something that you may not like that you may be good at, as opposed to doing something that you may be good at but you may not, because I've learned with students is like, you may go into the business because you want to do this one thing, but you might find out you're really good at this thing over here. And that's fine. That's fine too. I love
Get the experience.
Be open to the experience, right? So be open to the experience. Take care. Self-care is the most important thing.
Well, now that you said it, because that is the next question. That is the next question.
Oh, okay.
So give me 3-ish, a little more, a little less, 3 self-care practices that you do to help center or to regulate yourself.
Okay. This will be a little rehash, but getting a good night's sleep, fueling yourself, and being self-advocation. You know what I mean? I have to advocate for myself, and there's a very thin line between self-advocation and self-aggrandizement.
Yes.
I want to talk for money. I want people to give me money to say stuff out loud. That makes me a narcissistic masochist because I have to knock on all these doors, literally and metaphorically, and say, hi, I think I have a good voice. Could you give me money to say stuff out loud? No? Okay. And then go to the next one.
And be okay with that. And be okay with that. Yeah.
And you have to be okay with receiving the no, and you have to learn how to harness the power of no. Harness the power of no. It's more important than the power of yes. Because Stephen Covey talks about if you're trying to navigate Chicago with a map of Detroit, how far are you going to get? Well, work real hard. Well, then you'll get lost twice as fast. Well, have a great attitude. Well, then you'll be lost and not give a crap. Make the map match the territory. Be realistic about what's going on so you can navigate it while taking care of yourself, because it's all about self-promotion. At the same time, understanding your limitations, understanding the realism, the reality of whatever performing arts industry that you're getting into. And if you fail with no excuses.
Right. Those are all.
I'd rather you succeed though.
Well, I think, we'd all rather succeed and see everybody else succeed. But, there is just so much, space for the amount of people that are going for the jobs and they're trying. So you have to put yourself in the best position to make those people who have the money or who have the power notice you.
Yes.
And not be annoyed. And there's a balance.
Right. It is a balance. I mean, reconciling that it's a zero-sum game with, and I truly believe that there is no competition because there's plenty of work for everybody that knows what they're doing. Yeah. The problem is there's just way too many people who don't know what they're doing and keep showing up at these auditions and messing it up for everybody else.
And making them annoyed so that when you walk in, you've already got annoyed.
You've already got 2 strikes against you.
Yeah. Well, that was so enlightening and inspiring and validating. Like so many of the things that I've been talking about and I'm trying to get across to the kids and the older kids and the people who are trying to figure out like what they want in their life. So you shared so much incredible perspective and experience. And so I have to thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your expertise and your personal experience. I mean, that like there's a lot of, and so many people have that anxiety thing and have that social discomfort and they don't know what to do with themselves. And like, I see some of those kids and I'm like, you're gonna be okay. Like you said, you're gonna be okay. Just take a breath and appreciate who you are and know that we're here to like help you move forward. And so I think that's it's a very valuable perspective that a lot of people just, they don't hear, they don't know.
Yeah.
So that was great.
My
Thank you, Tom Dheere. And his little, I like this on his website, which I will post and I'll put in the blog. the H is silent, but I'm not, because his last name is Dheere. I think that was great.
Yes, I constantly give high praise to my logo designer who came up with that.
Really?
Yeah, she came up with that like 12 years ago, and I've been just riding that pony ever since, because it just works. It just works. It tells you everything you need to know about what you're going to get if you work with me.
Well, thank you again, and tune in next week for our next episode 13 of Change for the Better, the Power of Arts Education. Thank you so much.